Chris Jericho recently revealed some groundbreaking details in regards to his status with AEW. And today we're going to talk about why WWE and the competition should be scared, but we're also going to touch on why AEW should kind of slow down and maybe not do this right away. Anyways, make sure you guys watch the video in its entirety, and now, let's get started.
You have arrived at your destination.
Welcome back to Destination Pro Wrestling, everybody. My name is Ango. You can follow me on Twitter at Tango with Ango. And if you guys want to get the latest pro wrestling news and coverage, don't forget to click that subscribe button and click that bell. Make sure you click all notifications so that way you get notified for every video here on Destination Pro Wrestling. And with that being said, let's just jump right into the details. So Chris Jericho, you guys know he's had a pretty eventful couple years, especially from going to WWE to New Japan. Now he's doing his thing in AEW. It was only a matter of time until Chris Jericho really broke down some of the most important details in his contract. We know that he signed for large amounts of money. We know that Chris Jericho has a nice long-term deal with AEW. But one detail that we didn't know specifically was whether or not Chris Jericho was an independent contractor or an employee. Now, I gotta tell you guys, the reason why nobody really thought about this was because in pro wrestling for the longest time, you've always just been considered an independent contractor. And for many of you, you may not even realize why this is a big deal, so I wrote down some notes. I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between the two. And I'm not going to try to confuse you guys, so make sure you guys kind of watch this video in its entirety because I want it to make sense. But we're also going to talk about why Chris Jericho being an employee for AEW is a good thing. Now, with that being said, being the fact that there is good stuff associated with this, there is also some bad. So companies like WWE and Impact Wrestling should be scared, but even AEW should be scared because they are a startup. So with that being said, let's talk about the difference between an employee and an independent contractor. So what you need to know right off the bat, an independent contractor is not covered by federal and state employment labor laws, okay? Now, an employee is covered by employment laws. So why this matters? Well, trust me, it really does matter. And I don't know the back end of WWE and Impact and all these other wrestling companies. Obviously, Impact is stationed in Canada, so I'm sure it's a little bit different in the United States. But what you need to know is labor laws are a very serious thing, and people often complain in this world, not even just in the United States, but I see it all over social media. People feel like they're being taken advantage of in their job. Well, a law is a law. You are backed by that law. So the fact that you're an employee of a company versus a contractor definitely gives you a sense of security and protection. Now, one of the other things that you need to know is pay. So as an independent contractor, a contract may be for a total amount. It could be for an hourly, daily, weekly amount that ends on a specific date. And then, of course, however that is paid out, it's based on the job being completed. So WWE, we don't really know what their pay schedule is. I know just from working a regular job, you get paid on a Friday every 2 weeks. And that is something about employment that, it's part of the job, right? I know my hourly rate. I know what I'm going to get paid. I know when I'm going to get paid. And I have access to all that information. Technically, as an independent contractor, you get paid for the work that you do. Now, I'm not going to say anything bad about WWE here because, again, I don't know how they pay their employees, but it's based on a job. Now, it's really interesting when you think about this because WWE having independent contractors who are paid for X amount of work for X amount of years, it's different. Now, you also have to keep in mind how expenses work when it comes to the work environment. So if you're in WWE, one of the things that many people have complained about is that it could be very costly to be on the road 365 days a year. Recently, Lio Rush had talked about this experience with WWE, saying that he barely made enough money on the main roster to even pay for travel or, lodging. So like hotels and stuff like that. So the fact that he couldn't even travel, the fact that it was becoming costly to do so, he wasn't making enough money to survive. It's really crazy when you hear stuff like this come out because, of course, WWE is that mega million bajillion dollar company. And because they have so much money, you almost don't even think about this stuff. So that is a big problem in its own. Now, with Chris Jericho being an employee of AEW, AEW has to follow labor laws in the United States. Now, I'm not sure where AEW legally resides, but I believe it is, in fact, Jacksonville Jaguar. I didn't pull up any notes as far as how Jacksonville or how Florida handles labor laws, but I'm going to assume that in this stage of the game, it's going to be very important for them as a company to follow them. Now, this is also something that I found very interesting when looking online. Independent contractors determine when they work. Because independent contractors are their own business entity, a client cannot determine their work hours. They alone are responsible for fulfilling the work agreement when they work, and the hours they keep is completely up to them. So again, if you're an independent contractor, you have to kind of look at WWE here and think, well, you can't really hold them and lock them into a contract, right? Well, this is something that people have actually argued on social media. A lot of media outlets have come out and attacked WWE for the way that their employees or their stars are not employees and independent contractors, yet they're still obligated to perform as if they were an employee. Again, I know it could get confusing, but it's really interesting when you think of that, because deep down inside, if they're independently contracted, then there is no reason why they should have this issue with WWE. Now, if you're an AEW, because you came out spitting hot game about how you're going to do equal pay and all these different things, you're going to kind of change the universe, right? Well, because they came out with such a strong opinion, a lot of people were nervous as to how they would handle labor laws. And of course, with Chris Jericho not being an independent contractor, he is obligated to work what AEW says he's obligated to work. Now, of course, we've seen Chris Jericho show up in New Japan. It sounds like AEW is one of those cool jobs, right? One of those cool jobs where you can have a little bit of freedom, maybe text on your phone while you're at work. It seems like it's a pretty cool environment. So whether Chris Jericho was an independent contractor or not, it looks like AEW is the job that's allowing him to have a job as an employee, but is also allowing him to do stuff on the side as an independent contractor, which I know from the real world, that is a really, really good thing, because some companies, you're not allowed to have side jobs. You're not allowed to be invested anywhere else. You're not allowed to work for competition. You can't contribute to other businesses. So this is very interesting stuff. But there's one thing very specifically that I have to mention in this video. I really have to mention it here because this is what's the game changer. And that is the fact that independent contractors are not owed any benefits from their company. So again, going back to day one from AEW, talking about possible benefits for their wrestlers, this is a step in the right direction. Chris Jericho, as an employee, can technically now be eligible for benefits from their company, whether that's 401k, whether that's health and vision and dental. I know it sounds silly, but these are things that employers offer. And if AEW is offering some sort of retirement package, whether they're offering some sort of savings package or health package, I mean, these are the little things that are missing from pro wrestling, and it's going to allow many people to reconsider their destination. And that's where we get to why WWE should be scared. WWE was recently hammered down by John Oliver because of the same exact stuff. And then, of course, a lot of people have come out and tried suing the WWE for, head injuries and all these different things. But if WWE just offered benefits to their wrestlers, if they offered them jobs as employees, the conversation would be totally different. And again, it's not just WWE, but WWE is the bigger company here who has a lot of money, and it's a startup. They're going against a startup company who is basically saying, these are some of the things that we're going to do. And even though we're not the big fish in the pond, we're still going to offer these things. These are going to be perks for our people. And ultimately, you just have to be happy to see that change is coming to pro wrestling. And if you're a pro wrestling company out there, you should definitely take notes. But now that gets me to one final thought in today's video. Why is this scary for AEW? It sounds like AEW is off to the right start. I feel like they're close. I think they're getting closer and closer to WWE, and they've only had one show. And a lot of that is because of public perception. You guys could disagree if you want, but public perception here is so incredibly important when it comes to AEW. They are getting the people involved. All Out has more demand for that tiny little show compared to WrestleMania. People want AEW, but if you want AEW to succeed, it's going to make things a lot harder if they're not making money. It is. It's simply just going to be very difficult for people to do that. So what is AEW going to do differently? Well, they're going to spend a lot of money. They might lose a lot of money. And by offering employment opportunities for their wrestlers, it's going to become very costly. And that could be a very big concern as a startup. However, with that being said, they need to put out a great product first and foremost. They shouldn't be scared about their company, and honestly, they shouldn't be scared about anything until they get a lot of feedback from their fans. But at the same time, too, if they're not putting on a good show, if they're not being consistent, if they are struggling financially, then this could be one very big, costly mistake. And keep in mind, WWE is big for a reason. But this is the change that is needed in pro wrestling. It's simple as that. I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. My name is Ango. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Tango with Ango. And don't forget, click that bell for all notifications here on the channel. And I will see you guys next time.